Donald Trump has always liked to call himself a man of peace.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be.
His definition? If people stop shooting, even for a moment, that's peace.
Like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately.
By that measure, he'll tell you he's ended half a dozen conflicts.
You know, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars.
And he never forgets to remind you.
I'm doing this to save lives, more than anything else.
But the strange part is, who he credits for helping him do that? Not a general, not a diplomat, not even a politician.
Steve Witkoff, who's done a fantastic job. I spoke to Steve Witkoff. Talks that went very, very well. Steve was there.
It's Steve Witkoff, a billionaire property developer from New York. So who exactly is Steve Witkoff? How does a billionaire landlord with no diplomatic background, no foreign policy credentials, end up acting as Donald Trump's envoy for peace in some of the world's most volatile conflicts? Why would Trump trust him over seasoned diplomats and generals? And in the context of Gaza, does Wickoff's unlikely role force us to ask, whose interest is he really serving? And how does his Zionist associations fit into the story? Well, let's find out. Wickoff's admiration for Trump goes way back. In the 1980s, he was a young lawyer in Manhattan. To him, Trump was larger than life.
He'd come to 101 Park Avenue where I was a lawyer. He had this swashbuckling style. I used to see him come in and I used to say, God, I want to be him. He was like the Michael Jordan to me, you know, of the real estate business.
By 1985, Wickoff quit law to buy rundown apartment buildings. Now, he wasn't your typical landlord. He collected rent himself with a pistol strapped to his ankle, sometimes even fixing the plumbing.
I think we had a very, very good reputation in those neighborhoods. We ran our properties responsibly. We didn't have rent strikes at our properties.
Not the usual path to billionaire status, but hey, it worked. And then came the infamous daily story. Trump forgot cash for his sandwich. Wickoff paid. Trump remembered.
He became my friend as a result, of those experiences back then.
From then on, they were inseparable. Golf in Palm Beach, dinners in New York, real estate deals worth billions. But in 2011, everything changed. Wickoff's son, Andrew, died from an opiate overdose. It left Wickoff devastated, so Donald Trump stepped in and offered comfort. Wickoff still carries Andrew's ID card. He wears his ring and tells stories of Andrew feeding the homeless near his apartment.
After Andrew passed away, I found myself clinging to my son's memory, even his things. His college ID is in my pocket right now. I wear his ring since he died.
When Andrew died, a dozen of those men came to the funeral.
My son got to know them all. He fed them every evening. He became their friend. When he passed away, all 12 came to his funeral.
And it was kindness that somewhat became a calling for Steve. If his son cared for the overlooked, maybe he could honor that in spirit by working towards peace. So years later, Wickoff asked Trump for a promise. If Trump was re-elected, he wanted to try his hand at Middle East peace. And Trump agreed on the spot. No experience, no plan, just why not? And it almost sounds unbelievable, but that's how it happened. It's moving, but does personal tragedy automatically translate into political credibility? All the more when the question is Gaza, where diplomacy has failed again and again at unimaginable human cost. Here's where the crack begins to show. Wickoff has no diplomatic training, no background in conflict resolution, no history with international law. What he does have is a real estate philosophy. A good deal has to work out for everybody.
But it also seems like you think through where whoever you're negotiating with is coming from. Like, what do they want?
Well, there's no doubt I'm always trying to put myself in the shoes of the other person, because a good deal has to work for everybody.
It makes sense in property, not so much in Gaza. Wickoff says he tries to imagine what each side wants. Israelis, Qataris, Palestinians. But when asked if he ever spoken to Hamas directly, he admitted no. He relied on second-hand accounts, then declared Hamas's goals unacceptable.
It's about tactics. As you talk about from the other side's standpoint, it's important for me to know or to have a feeling of where the Israelis want to get to. What about the Qataris? They're the mediators at the table. What do they want to accomplish here? What about Hamas? Where are they?
What do they like to deal with?
I've never been in the same room as them, which is a little bit weird, wouldn't you say? Like a negotiation where you don't have the other party. Like you don't even know if the guy behind the wall is the Wizard of Oz or he's not the Wizard of Oz, right? So
how do you keep? I mean, without giving away anything that you can't.
I think you have to. We trust the Qataris. If I didn't trust the Qataris, then that would be really problematic. Not meeting with Hamas.
That might sound firm, but making judgments without ever hearing one of the central actors raises some critical questions about the integrity of the process itself. But to his credit, Wickoff even toured Gaza, a rare step for someone in his position, a sign that he was at least willing to see the territory with his own eyes. Yet the solutions he offered afterwards told a different story. Gulf investments, land swaps, demilitarization for investment. It sounded less like conflict resolution and more like property development. Now that outlook became even clearer when he defended Donald Trump's plan for Gaza, a plan built on permanently displacing Palestinians and turning the territory into a luxury holiday destination.
And then, of course, he got criticized for that as if he was looking to create a beachside community with gleaming towers and casinos. It was preposterous. He was being realistic about what Gaza how you needed to consider Gaza.
But none of this touched the root causes. Israel's military actions, the blockades, the occupied West Bank, issues far bigger than any real estate trade-off. Wickoff often says his trick is simple: put yourself in other people's shoes. But the irony is obvious. His shoes are already firmly tied to one side. He's been described as having a warm Zionist Jewish heart. Even David Friedman, Trump's pro-settlement ambassador to Israel, praised Wickoff, calling him a lover of Israel. Now, when you're the supposed peace broker, it raises a serious question. How do you negotiate fairly if your sympathies are already declared? Because stepping into someone else's shoes only works if you're willing to take your own off. And if you can't, whose peace are you really making? For Trump, Wickoff isn't just a friend on a mission. He's also a potential ticket to prestige. Trump has obsessed over the Nobel Peace Prize, furious that Barack Obama won one for nothing.
Mr. President! They gave one to Obama immediately upon his ascent to the presidency. He had no idea why he got it. And you know what? That was the only thing I agreed with him on.
Wickoff is his chance to get that. That's the risk in Gaza. Peace treated as a transaction, where one side walks away with everything and the other with nothing. Why Trump chose Wickoff over seasoned diplomats is anyone's guess. We can't get inside his head, but what we do know is a pattern. Trump has often favored the billionaire class, men like Peter Thiel and Larry Ellison, people who we've covered on recent episodes, making his friends richer, not the world more stable. And in the case of Middle East peace, that trajectory isn't leading toward resolution, it's leading towards disaster. Wickoff came with a real estate philosophy, not a diplomatic one. Deals and swaps may work in business, but not in a conflict that has defined decades of diplomacy. Can peace really last if the underlying realities remain untouched? For Gaza and Palestine at large, that's the question still hanging in the air. Without addressing the deeper realities, peace remains out of reach, and Gaza remains at the heart of the world's unfinished story.